The sharp, rhythmic sound of a knife against the cutting board echoed through the kitchen as Jeffrey Mason methodically diced vegetables for dinner. Carrots, celery, and onions fell with precise, even cuts that spoke of years of cooking experience, a hobby he had cultivated to please his wife, Clara. The kitchen clock reminded him that she should have been home 45 minutes ago. Steam rose from a pot of homemade marinara sauce simmering on the stovetop, Clara's favorite recipe. The rich aroma of garlic and fresh basil filled the air. Jeffrey barely noticed the aroma as his attention drifted to his phone resting on the granite countertop. He wiped his hands on a dish towel and checked their text conversation again. Clara's message read, "Working late again. Honey, don't wait up." Jeffrey's jaw tightened as he set the phone down. It was the 4th time that week and the 10th time that month he had missed a proper dinner together. The knife resumed its steady rhythm against the cutting board, though his cuts became less precise. Matching his growing irritation, the kitchen, with its high-end appliances and marble countertops, all Clara's choices, suddenly felt too sterile, too perfect. Their marriage, beautiful on the surface, was cold underneath. He glanced at the family photos hanging on the wall, taken during happier times. Clara's smile had been genuine then, and her eyes had been bright with affection. Now those same eyes held only thinly veiled contempt. The sound of keys jingling at the front door interrupted his thoughts. Clara's heels clicked against the hardwood floor of the expensive boutique she had received for her last birthday. She breezed into the kitchen, bringing with her the subtle scent of an unfamiliar cologne that was clearly not his. "You're cooking?" she asked, her tone carrying a new edge of disdain he had grown accustomed to hearing. She set her laptop bag on the counter, carefully angling it away from him. Jeffrey noted details in her appearance that were increasingly out of place for a regular workday. Her dark hair was freshly styled, falling in perfect waves around her shoulders, and her lipstick looked recently applied, too bright for a 12-hour workday. Her black dress was not the same one she had worn that morning. "Thought you might be hungry after your long day," he replied, keeping his voice neutral despite the burning questions in his throat. "The Henderson account must be demanding," she said, her perfectly manicured fingers tightening almost imperceptibly around her phone. "We ordered in at the office. Some of us had to work through dinner," she continued without meeting his eyes. "Right." Jeffrey continued chopping, each strike of the knife against the cutting board coming a little harder than necessary. "How's the case progressing?" he asked. Clara replied, "Fine," and the response hung in the air between them. Clara turned away and headed toward the stairs. "I need a shower," she declared. "You showered this morning?" Jeffrey called after her. Unable to hide the edge in his voice, she paused on the first step, her back stiffening. "Are you keeping track of my hygiene habits now?" she asked. Jeffrey replied, "Just an observation." Clara laughed sharply and dismissively. "Some of us care about maintaining professional standards, Jeffrey. We can't all show up to work in wrinkled khakis and ordinary shirts," she said. The barb stung, but Jeffrey kept his expression neutral. Jeffrey said, "The marinara will keep if you're hungry later. Don't bother." "I told you I already ate," she retorted. She continued up the stairs, her heels clicking against each step like tiny hammers driving nails into the coffin of their marriage. Jeffrey stood in the kitchen, listening to the sound of the shower starting upstairs. The sauce continued to simmer, filling the air with a homely aroma that now seemed almost mocking. He turned off the stove and began methodically putting away the ingredients, each container sealed with a sharp click, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. It was like a puzzle forming a picture he wasn't sure he wanted to see later that night. Jeffrey lay awake in their king-size bed, acutely aware of the growing chasm between him and Clara's sleeping form. The Egyptian cotton sheets felt cool against his skin, but he could not relax. Clara's breathing was steady beside him, yet even in sleep, she maintained her distance. Curled away on her side of the bed, Clara's phone buzzed on the nightstand with another late-night notification. She stirred but did not wake. The soft blue glow of her screen caught Jeffrey's attention, taunting him with its secrets. He lay there, his moral compass spinning wildly as he debated with himself. Years of trust and respect for privacy warred against weeks of mounting suspicion and Clara's increasingly dubious behavior. The phone buzzed again. Clara mumbled something in her sleep and turned over with trembling fingers. Jeffrey reached for the phone. The message preview on the lock screen made his blood run cold. Miss you already. Can't wait until tomorrow. Sweet dreams. Beautiful. D. His hand shook as he carefully placed the phone back on the nightstand. The room suddenly felt too small. The air was too thick to breathe. He slipped out of bed and made his way downstairs to the home office, needing space to think. Every room in their house bore Clara's sophisticated touch. Awards from her law firm lined the walls alongside their university diplomas. Jeffrey stared at their framed wedding photo on the desk. Clara was radiant, and he beamed with pride and love. 7 years of building a life together, supporting each other's dreams, planning for a future that now seemed to be crumbling beneath his feet. Sleep evaded him entirely that night. He watched the sunrise from his office chair, his mind replaying years of marriage like a movie, searching for the moment when everything began to change. When had Clara's ambitious drive turned into cold ambition? When had her playful teasing about his middle management job become cutting remarks about his lack of progress? When had her touch become mechanical, her kisses distracted? The next morning, Clara barely acknowledged him as she rushed out the door for another early meeting. She had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on a form-fitting red dress that Jeffrey had never seen before. "Don't forget we have dinner with the Hendersons next week," he called after her, testing his growing suspicion. Clara paused at the door, her hand tightening on her bag. "The Hendersons are in Europe for the month." "You know that," she replied, and left before he could respond. The door closed with a decisive click. The Hendersons were out of the country, a piece of the puzzle clicking into place. Jeffrey called in sick to work, his mind too chaotic to focus on spreadsheets and meetings. He spent hours pacing their home, discovering small details he had overlooked or dismissed. He found a hidden pack of cigarettes in her nightstand, even though Clara had quit years ago. He discovered restaurant receipts for places she had never mentioned visiting, and a spare phone charger tucked in her desk drawer, of a different brand than her current phone. In their shared walk-in closet, he found shopping bags stuffed in the back, with tags still attached to lingerie he had never seen or worn. The prices made him wince, but it was the sizes that caught his attention, slightly smaller than Clara's usual. It was as if they were meant to be displayed in optimal lighting, not worn for comfort. His hand shook as he opened his laptop and logged into their shared cloud storage. Clara had always been meticulous about backing up her phone, perhaps too meticulous. He found a folder buried deep within subfolders, innocuously labeled Work Projects 2024. Its contents shattered his world. Dozens of photos. There were photos of Clara with a man he did not recognize, tall, distinguished, probably in his early 40s. They were at restaurants, hotels, sharing intimate selfies. The man's smug smile seemed to mock Jeffrey through the screen. In one photo, they were at the very restaurant where Jeffrey had taken Clara for their anniversary last month. The timestamp matched the texts she had sent during their celebration. Screenshots revealed the man's identity. Derek Thorne, senior partner at a rival law firm. The messages made Jeffrey's stomach turn. Clara had written, "You're the only one who truly appreciates me. Jeffrey's so simple. He'll never understand me the way you do. You deserve better than some mid-level manager, baby. Someone who can match your ambition and your fire. Sometimes I look at him and can't believe I settled. Thank God you showed me what I was missing." The timestamps on the messages spanned from their anniversary dinner to Christmas and the weekend. He had surprised her with tickets to Paris, tickets bought with money he saved for 6 months by skipping lunches and taking extra projects at work. Jeffrey closed the laptop as nausea rose in his throat. He barely made it to the bathroom before emptying his stomach. The cool tile floor pressed against his knees as he knelt there, matching his emotional turmoil. When he could stand again, he washed his face and stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Clara's fancy hand soap and expensive creams lined the counter. Gifts from him, chosen with care because he thought she appreciated the attention to detail. Now he wondered if she had laughed about them with Derek, mocking his efforts to please her. He grabbed his keys, needing to escape the suffocating walls of their home, the house they had bought and decorated together, planning their future in a foundation built on lies. As he drove aimlessly through the city, his phone buzzed with a text from Clara. "Out for dinner with friends tonight. Don't wait up." The casual heart emoji felt like another slap in the face. He pulled over into an empty parking lot, his hands gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. The rage that had been building all day crystallized into something cold and focused. Opening his messages, he began typing. "Enjoy your dinner with Derek. The Henderson account must be keeping you both very busy. Say hi to him for me." His thumb hovered over the send button. No, this deserved more than a text message. Clara and Derek needed to see his face when their world came crashing down. He needed to see their expressions as their careful deception failed. He knew exactly which upscale restaurant they would be at. The Azure, Clara's favorite place for business dinners. They had a regular table, a fact that made him wonder how many of their date nights had really been meetings with Derek. Jeffrey drove home with purpose, his mind clear for the first time in weeks. In their bedroom, he changed into his best suit, a charcoal Tom Ford that Clara had helped him select because she claimed it made him look powerful. He studied himself in the mirror as he knotted his tie with steady hands. The man staring back at him was no longer the simple husband Clara had dismissed so easily. He was someone who deserved respect, and he was done letting her treat him like a fool. The Azure's valet recognized him as he pulled up, greeting him by name. "Good evening, Mr. Mason. We weren't expecting you tonight," Jeffrey replied smoothly, last-minute decision. As he handed over his keys, he spotted Clara's BMW in the lot, parked next to a sleek black Mercedes he did not recognize. Of course, Derek would drive something flashy. Antonio, the valet, did a double take as Jeffrey approached the podium. "Mr. Mason, what a pleasure. We weren't expecting." He trailed off, glancing uncomfortably toward the dining room. "Mrs. Mason is already seated with her colleague," he added, the pause speaking volumes. Jeffrey wondered how many of the staff had witnessed Clara's betrayal while remaining silent. How many had served them wine, taken their orders, and watched their intimate moments while knowing he existed at home, oblivious. Jeffrey replied, "Thank you, Antonio," with a calm smile that did not reach his eyes. "I thought I'd surprise them. A surprise indeed, one that will make Clara and Derek's dinner memorable for all the wrong reasons." The Azure's elegant dining room stretched before Jeffrey like a theater stage, with polished surfaces and dramatic lighting. Crystal chandeliers cast honeyed light across white tablecloths and gleaming silverware, creating an atmosphere of refined luxury. The gentle murmur of conversation mixed with the soft clink of fine china and crystal glassware, a sophisticated symphony that had once impressed him. Now it felt like background music to his own private drama. A young host stepped forward to greet him, but Antonio smoothly intercepted. "Mr. Mason," he said quietly with a professional smile that did not quite hide his discomfort. "Perhaps I could speak with you privately for a moment." "No need, Antonio," Jeffrey replied, his voice carrying enough authority to brook no argument. "I know exactly where I'm going." Jeffrey spotted Clara immediately. She was impossible to miss in that red dress from this morning. Her dark hair was arranged artfully over one shoulder as she leaned toward her companion. The dress looked different now, more intentional. Her business attire revealed itself as a costume for seduction. Derek matched his photos perfectly. Salt and pepper hair, a bespoke suit, and an insufferably smug smile permanently etched on his face. He leaned close to Clara, their hands nearly touching beside a half-empty bottle of wine. They looked like the perfect power couple, exactly what Clara had always wanted. Jeffrey observed them for a moment, noting how Clara laughed at something Derek said, a practiced laugh reserved for impressing important people. Her fingers traced the stem of her wine glass deliberately, a gesture he recognized as performative rather than natural. A waiter approached their table with a fresh bottle of wine, and Jeffrey heard Clara's voice carry across the room. "The Chateau Margaux, the perfect choice. Our special occasion wine, the one we discovered on our honeymoon," she declared. Of course, she would share it with Derek, until she saw him first. Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second, genuine surprise breaking through her carefully maintained facade, before her cool composure returned. She straightened in her chair, her smile turning cold and dismissive as she nudged Derek's arm. "Jeffrey," she said, her voice carrying a familiar note of condescension. "What an unexpected surprise." Her eyes darted around the restaurant, checking who might be watching, always conscious of her audience. Derek looked up, his expression shifting from annoyance to amusement as he sized up Jeffrey. He leaned back in his chair, radiating the easy confidence of a man accustomed to getting his way. "So you must be the husband Clara has told me so much about." "Has she?" he asked. Jeffrey's voice remained calm as he approached their table. A nearby diner glanced up at the tension in his tone. "Funny. She's never mentioned you, Derek. Though I suppose that was the point, wasn't it?" Jeffrey remarked. The flicker of surprise on Derek's face was satisfying. Clara's fingers tightened around her wine glass, her knuckles whitening. "You must have nothing better to do than follow me around," Clara said, her voice sharp enough to cut. "We're in the middle of discussing a case, a concept I'm sure is beyond your professional experience." Jeffrey pulled out an empty chair and sat down uninvited, noting how both Clara and Derek recoiled slightly. "The Henderson case, right? Fascinating stuff," he said with a pleasant smile at Derek. "Tell me, how are the Hendersons enjoying Europe?" he inquired, just as a muscle twitched in Clara's jaw. "The perfect mask," she muttered for a moment, revealing a flash of panic underneath. "This is completely inappropriate, Jeffrey. You're embarrassing yourself." "Am I?" Jeffrey countered as he reached for the wine bottle, examining the label with exaggerated interest. "Chateau Margaux 2015. Excellent choice. Though I believe this was our special occasion wine, wasn't it, Clara? The one we discovered in that little vineyard in Bordeaux during our honeymoon." He turned to Derek. "Did she tell you that story when she ordered it, or did she present it as her own sophisticated selection?" Derek cleared his throat, clearly annoyed at losing control of the situation. "Look, if you're trying to make some kind of point." "Oh, I'm just admiring the table setting." Jeffrey cut him off smoothly. "The Azure always does such an elegant job. The perfect place for a romantic dinner, wouldn't you say?" He locked eyes with Clara. "We used to come here for our anniversaries, though I suppose you've been here more recently than that." "Table 14. Your favorite spot, isn't it? Perfect lighting for those selfies, I found," Jeffrey remarked. Clara's face flushed with anger, her composure cracking further. "If you're done with this little performance, I particularly like how they arranged the flowers," Jeffrey continued, picking up the wine bottle again. His movements were deliberate and measured. The attention to detail, the way everything looked perfect on the surface, reminded him of their marriage. "The dinner parties, the vacation photos, the charitable donations to your firm's favorite causes, even that book club you started," he said. Clara interjected. "What was it you said? Networking is everything in law." "That's enough," Derek snapped, his confident facade cracking as he leaned forward, trying to use his physical presence to intimidate. "You need to leave. Now." Jeffrey replied, interesting choice of words. "That's exactly what Clara said to Michael last month, isn't it?" Derek's expression flickered with confusion, and Clara's sharp intake of breath was audible. Jeffrey's hand slipped as he poured red wine that cascaded over Clara's red dress, spreading across the expensive fabric like a stain, more splashed on Derek's crisp white shirt and designer tie, staining them irreparably. The bottle clinked against the table as he set it down with exaggerated care. Clara jumped up with a shriek, drawing the attention of nearby diners. "Are you insane? This dress costs more than your monthly salary." "My apologies, Jeffrey," he said calmly, setting down the bottle. "How clumsy of me. Almost as clumsy as leaving your cloud storage logged in on our shared laptop. For a lawyer, you're surprisingly careless with digital evidence." The color drained from Clara's face. Derek stood up, wine dripping from his ruined shirt onto his Italian leather shoes. "You had no right to go through her private files," he snarled as he stepped toward Jeffrey. Though his height advantage was obvious, Jeffrey did not flinch. "Private?" He laughed, the sound devoid of humor. "The private dinner you had with my wife during our anniversary, or the private weekend in the Hamptons while I was visiting my sick mother," he continued. Clara interjected. "How was the spa, by the way? The one you charged to our joint account as a business expense." "You're making a scene, Clara," Jeffrey said. "No, Clara, you made the scene. Months of scenes. Actually, quite the performance." Jeffrey stood, adjusting his tie with careful precision. The devoted wife, the hard-working attorney, the perfect hostess. You played all your roles beautifully, except you forgot one detail. "And what's that?" Clara asked, her voice dripping with venom, though a tremor lay beneath. "You forgot I'm not the fool you think I am," he replied with a cold, sharp smile. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice? The late nights, the new clothes, the sudden trips. I may be a simple middle manager, but I can add 2 and 2 together." Derek moved closer, using his height to try to intimidate Jeffrey. His cologne, the same scent Jeffrey had detected on Clara earlier, filled the air. "I suggest you leave before this gets unpleasant," he warned. "Unpleasant," Jeffrey echoed. He did not back down. "Reading messages where my wife mocks me to her lover, or discovering years of my life were a lie. That kind of unpleasant." "You're pathetic," Derek sneered, jabbing a finger at Jeffrey's chest. "Look at you making a spectacle of yourself. No wonder Clara needed more. What successful woman wouldn't want to upgrade from this?" He gestured dismissively as the restaurant grew quiet, all eyes on their table. Jeffrey could see phones being raised, recording the drama unfolding. Perfect. Let them record. Let them see exactly who Clara and Derek really are. Jeffrey's voice was deadly quiet. "Let me tell you what's pathetic, Derek. A man who pursues married women and strokes his ego by destroying other people's lives. A man so insecure he must validate himself by taking what belongs to others. I don't belong to anyone." Clara interjected, her voice shaking with rage. "You don't own me, Jeffrey. You never did." "No, you certainly don't," Jeffrey agreed coolly. "You belong to your ambition and your desperation to climb the social ladder. Tell me, does Derek know about the credit card debt you've been hiding? The shopping addiction you covered up by intercepting the mail? The 3 maxed-out cards in your desk drawer?" Clara's face went pale. Derek's head snapped toward her, uncertainty crossing his features. "Or maybe," Jeffrey continued, "he knows about the junior partner you were stringing along before him. What was his name?" "Michael. The one you were meeting at the Riverside Hotel while you were supposedly at yoga." Derek's confident smirk faltered. "What is he talking about?" Clara snapped. "He's lying. He's trying to manipulate you, isn't he?" Jeffrey asked as he reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. "Shall we compare notes, Derek? I have quite the collection of screenshots." It seemed Clara had a pattern of finding successful men who could advance her career. Michael was just a stepping stone. "You're just the current rung on her ladder." Derek's face darkened with fury. He grabbed Jeffrey's arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "I said that's enough," he roared. Jeffrey moved with a speed that surprised everyone, including himself. He twisted out of Derek's grip and used the man's own momentum to send him stumbling backward. Derek crashed into a nearby table, sending glasses shattering to the floor in a cascade of crystal and wine. The restaurant erupted in gasps and exclamations. A woman at a nearby table exclaimed, "Oh my God," as she recorded the scene on her phone. Derek struggled to his feet, his composure completely shattered along with the glasses. "You'll regret this," he snarled, straightening his ruined jacket. "I'll destroy you." "No, Jeffrey," he retorted calmly. "The only thing I regret is wasting 7 years with someone who never deserved my loyalty." Jeffrey reached into his jacket again, this time pulling out the envelope of divorce papers. He dropped them on the table, where red wine immediately began seeping into the corners. 7 years of supporting her dreams, celebrating her successes, building a life together, all while she planned her next upgrade. "What's this?" Clara demanded, though her voice suggested she already knew. "Freedom," Jeffrey replied. "For both of us, you wanted someone who matches your ambition. Congratulations, though you might want to ask Derek about his wife in Connecticut before you start planning the wedding. Sarah, isn't it? The one who thinks he's at a legal conference right now." Derek froze. Clara's head whipped toward him, her eyes widening. "Wife," she whispered. "Oh, didn't he mention her?" Jeffrey smiled coldly. "Funny how some details get overlooked in the heat of passion. But then you'd know all about keeping secrets, wouldn't you, Clara?" Derek lunged at Jeffrey, but restaurant security had finally arrived. They grabbed Derek's arms, restraining him as he cursed and threatened. "You're going to destroy me." Jeffrey laughed. "No, Derek, you and Clara already tried that. The difference is, I'm still standing. And unlike you, I don't need to hide behind lies and affairs to feel powerful." Clara stood amid the chaos, wine-stained and shaking. For the first time, Jeffrey saw her mask completely slip, revealing the desperate, angry woman beneath. "Everything I did because you were holding me back, always content with mediocrity, never pushing for more. Save it for your next target," she spat. Jeffrey cut her off. "I'm done listening to your justifications, done pretending your cruelty is somehow my fault. The next man you try to manipulate deserves fair warning." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Clara, you might want to call Michael. It seems Derek here isn't quite the catch you thought he was. But then neither was Michael's wife when you found out about her." The restaurant burst into applause as Jeffrey walked away, head held high. Behind him, he could hear Clara and Derek's relationship imploding in real time, their angry accusations echoing off the elegant walls. "You're married," Clara's voice cracked with fury. "All this time." Clara called after him as she stormed toward the exit. "Derek, it's not what you think. Don't follow me. Don't you dare follow me." Jeffrey stepped out into the cool night air, handing his keys to the valet. For the first time in months, he felt like he could breathe freely. The weight of suspicion and betrayal had been replaced by something lighter. Not happiness yet, but the promise of it. The promise of a life free from Clara's manipulation and lies. His phone buzzed. Probably Clara, ready to unleash her fury via text. He deleted the notification without reading it. Whatever she has to say can go through our lawyers now. He had said everything he needed to say. As he waited for his car, he heard the restaurant door slam open behind him. Clara stormed out, mascara streaking down her face, the wine stain on her dress now dried to a dark purple. "You've ruined everything. My reputation, my relationships." "No, Clara," he replied without turning around. "You did that all on your own. I just made sure everyone could see who you really are." His car arrived, and he got in without another glance at his soon-to-be ex-wife. In the rearview mirror, he saw her standing in her wine-stained dress, watching him drive away. Derek emerged from the restaurant and tried to approach her, but she swung her purse at his head. "You stay away from me. Both of you just stay away." Her voice carried across the parking lot. Jeffrey allowed himself a small smile as he turned the corner. The night hadn't gone as Clara planned, but it had gone exactly as he had hoped. The perfect dinner, the perfect affair, the perfect light, all shattered like the wine glasses on the restaurant floor. His phone buzzed again, this time with a text from an unknown number. "Derek, this isn't over." Jeffrey deleted it without responding. Derek was right about one thing. It wasn't over. The divorce would be messy. Clara would fight him every step of the way, and there would be plenty more drama to come. But for the first time since discovering Clara's betrayal, Jeffrey felt truly in control. Let them plot, scheme, and threaten. He had nothing left to lose and nothing left to hide. The morning after the confrontation at the Azure, dawn was cold and gray, matching Jeffrey's mood as he sat at his kitchen table. The house felt different now, emptier, yet somehow less suffocating. Clara's presence lingered in every carefully chosen piece of decor, every sophisticated touch she insisted upon. But the power of those things had diminished overnight. His untouched coffee grew cold as he scrolled through a flood of messages on his phone. News of last night's events had spread through their social circle like wildfire, igniting gossip and recrimination that threatened to consume Clara's carefully constructed reputation. Videos of the confrontation had already made their rounds, and his phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Friends, colleagues, and even acquaintances reached out to offer support or satisfy their curiosity. Another notification popped up, from Linda Carter, one of Clara's closest friends at the law firm. "I had no idea," her message read. She wrote, "You were controlling, holding her back, and jealous of her success. I'm so sorry, Jeffrey." He deleted the message without responding. Linda had been at their dinner parties, watching Clara belittle him countless times and laughing along with her jokes about his career. Her apology now meant nothing. His lawyer, Martin Davidson, called as Jeffrey was getting ready for work. "Your wife's attorneys have reached out," Martin said without preamble. "They're pushing for a quick, quiet settlement. They seem eager to keep this out of court." Jeffrey laughed, a sound harsh even to his own ears. "Of course they are. The videos are everywhere." Martin agreed, a note of satisfaction in his voice, along with some fascinating rumors about Mr. Thorne's other indiscretions. Word is, his firm's partners are not pleased about their senior partner becoming a viral sensation, especially given the compromising nature of some cloud storage photos. "Not my problem," Jeffrey said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "I've chosen my best suit today, my armor for the battlefield my office will undoubtedly become." "No, it's not." Martin's smile was audible through the phone. "Clara is asking to meet. She says she wants to talk things through privately, claiming she can explain everything." "Absolutely not. That's what I told them. All communication goes through us now," Jeffrey said. Martin paused, his tone growing serious. "You should know she's been calling your office multiple times since it opened this morning." Jeffrey's jaw tightened as he stared at his reflection. "I'll handle it," he declared. "I'm sure you will. Oh, and Jeffrey, that wine stain trick, masterful, expensive, but masterful, worth every penny," Martin added. Jeffrey ended the call. He arrived at work to find his assistant, Sarah, looking uncomfortable at her desk. She had been with him for 3 years and had witnessed Clara's gradually increasing disdain for his career firsthand. "Mrs. Mason called 3 times already," Sarah said, barely concealing her distaste at mentioning Clara's name. "She's quite insistent, threatening to come down here if you don't call her back." "I'm not taking her calls," Jeffrey said firmly. "If she shows up here, call security immediately. No exceptions." Sarah nodded, relief evident on her face. "Also, Mr. Reynolds wants to see you in his office. He said it's important," she added, hesitating before adding, "I saw the videos. That red wine move. Chef's kiss." Jeffrey couldn't help but smile slightly. "Thanks, Sarah. Hold my calls except for Martin Davidson." He learned that Tom Reynolds, his boss for the last 5 years, was waiting in his office. He stood as Jeffrey entered, his expression serious but not angry. "I hear it's been a hell of a night," Tom said, gesturing for Jeffrey to close the door. "The board's been looking to expand our corporate accounts division. We need someone who can handle difficult situations with diplomacy and strength." Jeffrey blinked, caught off guard. "Are you offering me a promotion?" "The position comes with a significant raise and a corner office," Tom said, sliding a folder across his desk. after watching you handle last night with such control. Well, let's just say you impressed a lot of people, including some board members who happened to be dining at the Azure, Tom added. I don't know what to say, Jeffrey admitted as he opened the folder to see salary figures that made his eyebrows rise. Say yes, Tom replied simply. You've earned it. Jeffrey's phone buzzed with another call from Clara, but he declined it without breaking eye contact with Tom. Speaking of challenging circumstances, Tom continued, there's a woman in reception insisting on seeing you. Should I have security remove her? Jeffrey asked. No, Tom replied, nodding approvingly. I'll handle it. And that's exactly why you're perfect for this promotion. Clara stood in the reception area, causing a stir among the morning crowd of employees and clients. She was still wearing yesterday's wine-stained dress, the red fabric now marked with purple splotches. Her makeup was smeared and her hair disheveled, a far cry from her usual polished appearance. Heads turned as Jeffrey approached, with whispers following in his wake. You're not taking my calls, she said, her voice cracking. All communication goes through our lawyers, Jeffrey replied coldly. You need to leave. Please just give me 5 minutes, Clara pleaded as she stepped closer, lowering her voice. I can explain everything. I owe you that much. I owe you. Jeffrey's laugh drew more attention from the growing audience. That's rich, even for you. Things got out of hand, he said. Clara reached for his arm. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. Start over. There is no fixing this, Jeffrey said sharply. There is no starting over. You didn't make mistakes, Clara. You made calculated, deliberate choices for months, maybe years. Derek meant nothing. She insisted, or am I supposed to believe you were the only one? Clara flinched, glancing around at the watching faces. You're being cruel. Cruel. Jeffrey laughed harshly. Cruel is finding photos of my wife with another man in our vacation folders. Cruel is discovering years of lies, hidden behind anniversary cards and dinner parties. Cruel is reading messages where you mocked everything I ever did for you. I was unhappy, Clara whispered, trying to regain control. You never understood. No, you were greedy, Jeffrey corrected. I understood perfectly. Nothing was ever enough for you, not my love, not my support, not my sacrifices. You needed more, bigger, better. Well, congratulations. Now you have nothing. Clara's facade cracked completely. Please don't do this. The firm is already talking about transferring me to the Minneapolis office. Derek's wife found out. She's telling everyone about the affair. Jeffrey said simply, now you can leave on your own where security can escort you out. Your choice. Clara reached for him again. Jeffrey, please. We can start over. I'll do better. Be better, she pleaded. He turned to the security guards waiting nearby. She was just leaving, he said. As they approached, Clara's desperation turned to anger. Her tears dried up instantly, replaced by a familiar cold fury. You'll regret this, she hissed. I'll take everything in a divorce. Everything. There's nothing left to take, Jeffrey replied calmly. You already took my trust, my loyalty, my love. The rest is just furniture. He watched as security escorted her away, her threats dissolving into sobs that sounded more angry than heartbroken. Employees quickly pretended to be busy as he walked back to his office, though he could feel their stares and hear whispered conversations. Sarah met him at his door, a mix of concern and admiration on her face. Mr. Thorne called while you were in reception, she said. Jeffrey's jaw tightened. What did he want? I think I saved his message, she said, playing it on speakerphone. You think you're so clever, the message began. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I'll bury you, destroy your career. By the time I'm done, you won't be able to get a job sweeping floors. Jeffrey deleted the message mid-rant. Any other calls? Clara's lawyer called twice. They're really pushing for that private meeting, Sarah reported, hesitating before adding. Oh, and 3 headhunting firms. Apparently your handling of last night impressed some people, especially the part where you took down Durek without throwing a single punch. So I've heard, Jeffrey said, sitting at his desk and looking at the promotion paperwork Tom had left. Corporate Accounts Division, corner office, a position Clara had always said he'd never achieve. Just what I needed. More corporate politics, Sarah added. If you can handle Clara and Durek, you can handle anything. Oh, and HR called. They want to know if you need any personal days to deal with your situation. Jeffrey shook his head. I'm done letting Clara disrupt my life. His phone buzzed again with another message from Durek. This isn't over. You've made a powerful enemy. He blocked the number without responding. Let Durek rage and threaten. Let Clara cry and plead. Their power over him was gone, shattered like their carefully constructed lies. Jeffrey sat at the bar with his friends, feeling lighter than he had in months. The anger wasn't gone. It might never be completely gone, but it no longer controlled him. Clara and Durek's betrayal had been meant to break him. Instead, it had freed him. The Jeffrey who had desperately tried to please Clara, who had accepted her criticism as truth, who had doubted his own worth, that man was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, someone who knew his value, someone who refused to accept anything less than respect. Clara had been right about one thing. He wasn't the man she married. He was better. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.